Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How are we getting on? Welcome to a brand new camp build. Today we are over in the Savage Divide. I thought we'd build here as I haven't done in quite some time, and we're going to make use out of the Season 7 building set as well. A little bit anyway. And then, so yeah, down in the Savage Divide. It's been a long time actually at this point since I last built in the Savage Divide. Not biggest fan of the place, but I thought we'd mix it up for a change, and getting use out of that new building set is good too, if only a little bit. But let's jump in and have a little look at where we are on the map. You can see, just here, down at the bottom end of the Savage Divide, not far from the Cranberry Bog. There's the relay tower just there, Johnson's Acre, Big Ben Tunnel East, and we've got Watoga just over this way, so fairly sensible spot, fairly popular corner of the map this, but quite happy with the spot nonetheless. The easiest way to find this, if you want to, is to head up from Big Ben Tunnel East, sort of head west from there, and it's just up the hill a little bit there. So, this is the space we've got. It's kind of awkward. So I've dropped this foundation in already, as I spent a little bit of time figuring out just where I wanted it first, and it was not particularly exciting. The idea here is to have it on top of this sort of rise that we're standing on here. I want the house far enough back, it's only going to be a small one, but I want it far enough back that it's entirely on top of the hill rather than sort of part way onto the slope. Then there's less front surface of the foundation showing, so it'll look a little neater that way. That little tuft of grass on the left there is kind of a pain as well. It won't bulldoze, so something to watch out for if you're building around areas like this. Here's the new building set. We got the end of Season 7. It's alright, it's pretty cool style. I do like that. It's a little bit dark for me, and you can't see through the windows, which I'm not entirely sold on, but it's something a bit different. So this house is basically similar to something I've done in the past, which I will link to that video for you if you want to check it out. But one thing I did in that previous build that I didn't do here was use half walls on the end. And at least for the bedroom end of this building, that's probably a good way to do it, because then you can have a window further up the wall. When you come to decorate, the window won't be sort of interfering with the position of your furniture. Not that it's a problem, but it's sort of nice not to have the furniture overlapping the window. So in hindsight, should probably have done that, but it works okay. So let's get this last piece in. Dead simple little structure, this one. Tiny little house, it's just the kitchen and the bedroom, that's all we're going for in here. We'll put the rest of it in separate structures and stuff in a moment. So, get some wallpaper on. Did try this black and gold one, which I like, but in this space it was a bit much, so we're going to go for something a little more understated with this purple haunted house wallpaper. We'll finish that off there. Nice. And there we go. Sadly, I really wish we could do the roofs, but one day, maybe. One day. So, before we finish this one off, let's just get a staircase on the front edge here. Use the haunted house ones. Same with the porches as well, because they just kind of match up with the new building set a little bit better. Being a little darker in colour. And there we go. We also have those vines on, which add a bit of extra detail, which is nice. So, structure number 2 is going to be our crafting building, I suppose, for want of a better word. And we're so over here by this rock on the right that you can see, and this bit of ground in particular, not only this bit, but this bit in particular, is a nightmare to build on. Down there is where I want the front gate. So what I'm going to try and do is get the angle of this just right so that it sort of follows the line of the path up from the front gate to the house. So it's going to be a little bit sort of 45 degrees rather than 90 to the house. But we'll get that sort of positioned, get these foundations in and get the exact positioning on heights right. I'm going to use these porches to make the actual structure, but sort of eyeballing it with foundations is a little bit easier first. Also, I don't want this front edge of the structure sticking out too far either, otherwise it'll just kind of interfere with the layout of the place and the pathing up towards the house. But that's about right. So we'll get 4 of these corner pieces in. I've actually used the wrong corner pieces here. I've used sort of internal corner pieces rather than the external ones. It works, as we can see, but it doesn't look quite as good. You can see the roofs are convex on these, and I want the... No, these ones are concave. I want the convex ones. Get those to the right way around. So we'll swap those out for the right ones. Looks basically the same, but it's slightly different, and the floor looks a little better, so that's generally a win. That staircase on, because that's where I want the entrance. And now we'll turn it into an enclosed building rather than a pavilion. Not that there's anything wrong with a pavilion, it actually works quite well, but this is going to be part of the outer wall of the camp as well, which, as you guys know, I like to make sure my camps are nice and secure. So if I'm going to use the building as part of the wall, then I definitely want it to be solid, at least on that back side. So we're going to move some junk walls in here. These actually go in quite nicely, and the posts are reasonably soft, as is the edge of the junk walls. So this works quite well. There's a little bit of floating technically going on, but it's going to be out of sight, so I'm not too worried. If you haven't got the junk walls, you could probably swap these porch pieces out for foundations, snap some regular doorways onto it, and then swap the foundations back out for the porches. I would imagine that would work, and then you can change the doorways over to walls again, and you'll have it nicely enclosed. This wall is the one thing that was slightly awkward with positioning these junk walls in. It'll sit down there on the ground just fine, but it won't sit on the actual foundation. And I think it's that metal junk wall at the back that's interfering with it, would be my guess. So we're going to use some cages instead, some chain link fence to make this place feel a bit more cage-like anyway, because it creates quite a nice effect. Fortunately, as these posts are ridiculously forgiving with their clipping, that will just sit quite nicely in the gap there. Line it up carefully. We'll pop around the outside to make sure the position's right. I want to sort that out a little bit more so that post is hidden inside the wooden post. I want this chain link to look like it's basically an intrinsic part of the structure. So tweak that a tiny little bit. The highlight kind of throws you off a bit there, but it works. And we'll do the same on most of the rest of it. Now, these back two chain links I will want to dress up in a moment, but for now we'll get the rest of these gaps just plugged up, apart from the entrance obviously. There we go. Get this last one in. Nice. So there we go. A nice, slightly interesting looking structure. So as I say, those back two, I do want to make sure they're secured up because they will be outside the walls technically. As you can see, the ground here is doing exactly what it does in quite a few spots, which is have things sink into it and claim it can't be placed because it's floating and all manner of stuff like that. It's a total pain in the neck in this spot. So one reason I would say it's not the best place to build. So fortunately, I will put the junk wall here in a bit and I'll adjust this gas station sign, but this thing is generally really forgiving about where it places and makes brilliant sort of walls, and especially junk walls, because it's a big flat thing and it's height adjustable as well. So gas station sign to the rescue again on this one. Heading back over to this other side, I actually managed on my second attempt to get this junk fence to sit pretty close to the main structure. But what I had to do was drop it in here and then head around this side of it and move it over. Sometimes when you just try again from a different position, it makes all of the difference. Technically, it's popping up onto the foundation there, but it looks alright. It's going to be on the outside of the walls, kind of out of sight anyway, so if it's not perfect, it doesn't matter too much. You'll be able to see it from the inside, it'll look right. There we go. We have our crafting structure complete. So, with those two in place, we're going to kind of work towards walling this off. First, I want to put our little fishing dock in down here. Now, I'm going to use the bridges because I don't use them very often, as they're really not tall enough for what I want, and they don't snap to upper floors either, which is maddening. But they work quite well for little fishing docks and things like that. If you wanted to put water purifiers out here, obviously you could, but when it came to the final decoration, the options for powering those would either have been something that was way too big and didn't look right with the rest of the decoration, or something that would have been very noisy. So I kind of decided I didn't really want that and just went for a fishing dock instead. Now we've got this more or less in place, we'll push that first one back out into the water a little further so that I can clip the second one through the earth. Look like it's a bit more permanent in place. Just like that over there. There we go. Nice. There's somewhere to grab some dirty water on those occasions that I need it as well. As this is going to be basically outside the walls, we'll put a gate on here so we can secure this little side of the camp. These encampment pieces fit just about perfectly on the encampment bridge here, which makes sense now that I think about it, but it's quite handy. So we'll position that right up against the post there. And there we go. It's a little bit on the radary side, as I've said before, but it works fine, as long as we don't overdo it. So walling this piece off is particularly awkward. Starting off here with the first junk fence isn't too bad, but you can see the ground is anything but flat, and as we approach the water edge there, of course, it's going to drop down very, very sharply, which does create certain problems. So get that first one in, and we'll move on and do a second one here. You see I tried some chain link here, but I wasn't quite happy with the look, so pull that out. We'll put this junk fence in. I actually ended up swapping this out for a gate during the decoration phase, as I put the toilet around the back of this junk wall, and also it was a little boring to look at from further down in the camp, so adding a gate there just mixed up the structure a little bit, made it a bit more interesting. As you can see, I've tried some chain link here, but we have some slight issues with the floating. But fortunately, these concrete guard posts, as it turns out, are very, very forgiving about clipping through the ground, and actually provide support quite nicely for the chain link, so it ended up being a really good solution to the problem here. You can see I can just place that straight on the top there. So we'll just adjust the line a little bit on this first guard post here. We'll put another one in a moment. We'll drop the chain link on the top there. There's going to be a little bit of a gap here on the left end, but it's a junk fence. It doesn't need to be perfect. And we'll adjust this one here. Obviously, still got a gap there that definitely won't do. But it's nothing that can't be fixed with another concrete barricade. So we'll use the one on the left there just to provide a little bit of extra support for this left-hand end of the concrete guard post. And there we go. Nice and plugged up. So let's get rid of the spare chain link. We'll use a half-size bit of chain link as a tongue twister, just to go up the slope here. It's not too bad, that slope, but we do have a bit of one. And we'll drop another junk fence in here and start following this line of the rocks there, just around the edge of what will be the camp. So rather than going over this repeatedly, just dropping junk fences in, you can see what I've done with it there. We'll move on to another bit that was really darned awkward. So got that last gap to fill up. I want the gate, as I said earlier, here on this gap of earth, as it will be a nice sort of path into the camp. But clearly, it doesn't want to play ball. It just will not let me place. For some reason, it sinks in, as you can see, and thinks it's floating at the same time, which makes no sense at all, but something to do with the weird way that the earth and the ground is put together in this spot. Fortunately, we've got a simple solution that's going to work quite well. I'm going to use this foundation here to just sort of create a nice little entranceway. So I'm lining that up between the path and the house at the end there. Getting an eyeball on that. And I want to drop it down a tiny bit further so it's as close to the ground as possible without too much clipping going on. So there we go. Just use those to do that. And I'm quite happy with the position. Put a little staircase across the front just to smooth it out a bit. Now we can just carefully position this gate right on the front edge of that foundation. Just about a perfect fit. There we go. And I can dress that up during the decoration and make it look much nicer. So the last little bit I wanted to show is closing off this gap, which we use some chain link for. Of course, this bit of the ground is still being awkward, so we're going to have to go with a kind of cutaway notch section here using the chain link. So that kind of works. It's actually a bit more interesting than just a straight piece of chain link, I suppose, as well. But not quite ideal. So we'll just get the second one in, make sure that posts connect up so that the chain link is supported as much as possible. Make a little adjustment here. And that should do quite nicely. I'm going to do something similar on this side. I'm going to have it the wall cut back at quite a sharp angle. Not so much matching the other side, but being broadly similar. Just to sort of create a nice aesthetic with that. And with that in place, we can just put some last junk walls in here to close up the gap. And it's probably a good time for me to head off and decorate this place. So, let's jump on and have a look at the tour, shall we? So here we go. Several hours of decoration later, we have a complete camp. And I'm really pleased with how it came out. A nice little fortified homestead going on here. Added a few extra trees just to dress it up a little bit. A couple of extra bits and pieces of turret stands out front and things like that. But having the camp unit there means I kind of fast travel in just a little bit down the hill as well, so I have to approach up the path, which is quite nice. Got a punji board out front just because this front gate isn't locked, as the vendors are inside, so I want to make sure no beasties come running up and into my camp. Put the collector on out here as well, as the slope of the ground inside and general awkwardness of it didn't really work with it, and it just didn't blend into the decoration either. It's just a bit too chunky for being inside the walls. But it works quite nicely there with a few extra bits of decoration as well. So let's open up the gate and head on inside. You can see I've dressed up this foundation. A couple of railings on there, a few extra bits and pieces of boxes and plants and stuff, and some lamps. The oil lamp, street lamps there, just to dress it up. Nice entranceway, bit of a creepy scarecrow, because why not? We have a nice little open area in the centre. So put a couple of bits in here just to make it a little more full, otherwise we'd have a really big open area. We've got the plants and stuff at the back there and the bonfire as well. Got ourselves a nice little vending area here. couple of little bits in this were slightly inspired by one of the camps in Through the Keyhole we did last week, which if you haven't checked out, you really should. So, nice little shop here. Got a half-height wall at the back with the roof on the top, and tons of decoration on it as well. That roof really needs to be one of the last things that goes in, otherwise all your decoration will simply jump up to the top. But other than that, that works quite well. Yeah, loads of little bits and pieces around to decorate it. Got the shelter entrance over there. I've put the stones around the bonfire there just because the earth at the bottom of the bonfire matches Helvetia, not the Savage Divide, so the colours don't match up. It looks really silly. So putting the stones around it kind of hides that quite nicely. A little look at our crafting space. It's another area that I'm really happy with the final look of. This has come out really well. A couple of chain links there just to divide off this half, as we kind of create separate rooms there, and it makes the space a little bit more interesting. Stash boxes, a few extra bits of decoration, and our weapons and armor benches. Really couldn't find anywhere that the power armor station looked right in other than this, so we're going to have to bars through the middle, which is fine, it works. But I thought about having its own stand and little location, but it was just too big and looked out of place, so in here it is. A few extra bits of decoration around the chemistry bench and the tinker's bench there, just to dress it up again a little bit more interesting. Let's see we're nice and secured from the outside of the camp here. A few little extra bits of decoration on that back wall there. Not too bothered about the gap at the top there. It'd be kind of nightmarish for anybody to shoot through, so we're basically covered. Gives a bit of extra natural light in here as well. Yeah, quite happy with how this came out. I did think about putting a little gate on the front of this, but I figured opening and closing a doorway every time I wanted to run in here would get annoying fast. It looks good without, so I decided against it. Dressing up the edges of these walls and in front of the structures was a bit of a pain. There's quite a lot of things sink in, so there's a few little bits of rug glitching going on here. Fortunately, you can't really tell, which is great. Can sometimes be a problem in 76, that. I've added a few bits and pieces of stuff that would actually sit on the ground without being problematic. Though we've got one floating carrot there, which is a bit weird. It wasn't floating when I placed it. Closed off this section as well with some chain link. It was basically the only thing that would work with the ground being so awkward to build on in that corner by the tree there. And then dressed it up a little bit more, which has come out quite nicely. Not perfect, but I'm quite happy with it. Little sitting area out here on the front porch. Cage bulb lights on the front there just to add a little bit more interest to the front aspect, and then a little bit of decoration in here just to make a nice little area to sit and chill. It's come out quite nicely. Let's head on in. I struggled to find a door that I felt really suited these building pieces, but the dungeon one will do for now. Here's our little kitchen just inside. I've swapped this wall out on the left for a doorway so that I could push the cooking station there back into the doorway and then switch it out again for a wall to hide the pipes, and it looks a bit neater for doing that. Remember to put some stuff on my magazine racks this time, improving over the last build. Loads of little bits of detail and decoration in here. Really cozy, nice little spot. Just one rug down to cover the stone floors, so we've got a little bit more homeliness down at the bedroom end and the sitting space. We're leaving it open by the kitchen for kind of stone kitchen floor. Loads of plushies everywhere in this camp. I like putting that little shelf full of plushies up there. It really makes the place a little bit more interesting. Handy shotgun by the bed, just in case. There's grand plushie sitting on top of the safe there. Somewhere to hang out. Quite like how this has come out. Nice and busy, lots of stuff going on, but still plenty of room to move around, or enough room to move around. And you can access everything you need to. Nice little view over the camp as we come back out of the house as well. That rock, however, is the bane of my life, because you can bulldoze it, but it keeps popping back, and obviously I can't leave anything there permanently, because it just blocks the access to the building, so... You know, what can you do? So you see, I swapped that back piece of fence out here for a encampment gate. I'll put a little lock on this one, just because it's... I don't want any enemies running up through the camp this way, just in case. They seem to attack from the other side, so it's not too much of a problem. A few extra brambles, put the bathroom out here as well. Probably put that toilet just over the pipes there, really. Would have been better, but nonetheless, it works okay. Let's say we dressed it up a little bit to make it look a little more permanent. Some of the undergrowth growing back a little bit. Makes it look a little more complete. A few of these ferns dropped in as well. Well, the pot's clipped straight down through the earth there, because that's the way the ground goes in the spot, but hey, it looks like it's growing out the ground, and that's fine. Here's our little fishing dock. Yeah, as I said earlier, you could have put some water purifiers in, but you can sort of see why now that putting any power for them in place would have just looked really big, clunky, awkward, and not blended into the rest of the decoration. And the options that would have done, I'd have either had to have a lot of solar panels, I've got enough of those already, or a windmill, which is just really noisy, or a watermill, which again, same problem. So I decided against it. But there we go. Really happy with how this has come out. Nice little homely, very scrappy wasteland homestead. So I do hope you folks enjoyed this one. If you did, please do consider dropping me some subs and likes. I very, very much appreciate it. Down below the video, you can find social media links, merch store, and channel memberships as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel that way, I very much appreciate it too. Massively helps out. Massive thanks to everyone who's done that. And if you get a chance to join us for the live streams as well, we are, of course, playing 76, having a lot of fun with Invaders from Beyond at the moment. And we are playing Metro 2033 as well for our secondary game, which has been good fun and run into a couple of issues with it, but hopefully we've got those fixed now. So, if you'd like to join us for those, I would very much appreciate. But for now, thank you very much for watching. I look forward to speaking to you all very, very soon.